When the blackbirds rest during the day, each claims an individual spot on a naked tree branch, and nothing looks out of the ordinary. It's a different story at dusk, when the sun begins its gentle descent below the horizon, writes Susan Beaumont, congregational consultant, spiritual director, and author of the book, How to Lead When You Don't Know Where You're Going. She then goes on, something in the setting of the sun triggers a magnificent response among the birds, as if they've been charged with heralding the setting of the sun. At dusk, the birds rise in a singular, wind-swept movement like the unfurling of a flag. Without fanfare, the undisciplined birds transform into a fluid swarm, rising into the air, folding inside and out, shifting shape and form, but always maintaining the integrity of the flock. A collective wisdom seems to birth the rising. There are no apparent leaders guiding the swarm. The gathered flock rises with eloquent synchronicity. For 20 minutes, the birds dance like a well-orchestrated ballet company before losing their flocking impulse and settling in for the night. It is a beautiful and frightening event to witness, Beaumont concludes. Frightening because these murmurations appear wild and out of control. Think of the violence that swarm could do if they attacked a human. A certain Hitchcock movie comes to mind. Frightening, yes, but at the same time, beautiful. Beautiful beyond words. The result is not only awe-inspiring, but very practical. Scientists speculate that it produces collective warmth, and they possibly exchange information about good areas to feed in. Others say it might be a sign for other birds from afar to roost. Roosting together is not only good for warmth, but they are safer together. More eyes for defense. A lone bird is easier prey. Now, I'm no ornithologist, but I speculate there is a certain joy for those birds being together, flying and creating in the rich colors of the dusk. Pardon my anthropomorphism here, but maybe it feels like dancing. Maybe it feels like marching, or going to a rock concert, or a Buffalo Bills game, or Sunday worship here. Maybe it has that transcendent feeling of unity to it. I'm sure the blackbirds and starlings do it because it feels good. If it felt bad or they were indifferent to it, they simply wouldn't do it. It feels good to fly with our friends and make new, never before seen patterns together. Sick of being alone and cold, they rise up and embrace the art of moving together. The murmurations of blackbirds are reminding us of something. Beaumont calls these murmurations illustrations of emergent behavior. That is, when many simple entities operate independently in a chaotic environment and then form a more complex collective behavior. The blackbirds murmurate into a higher ordered pattern that can easily change direction fluidly. And with that, a new structure emerges. Out of the status quo and into relationship with each other, interconnected individuals merge into something more. We humans also murmurate when we follow fashion trends or are parts of movements of art or science or justice. And when we engage with the flocking nature of this congregation. We are the murmuration. We, together in the Spirit, jointly improvise some grander piece that can be seen for miles, attracting others by the beauty of our dance, of our emergent flight. They want to join, looking out for each other in love, warming ourselves with Spirit, communicating that subtle nourishment of the soul. With the help of computer modeling and high-tech cameras, scientists know more about the swarming starlings and blackbirds. Beaumont explains the three principles as separation, cohesion, and alignment this way. Separation. Avoid crowding your neighbor too much. Every bird demonstrates a respect for the bubble of space between itself and its neighbor. Cohesion. Yet at the same time, they stay close to their neighbors, never allowing too much space between you and your closest flying companions, always seeking to move toward another bird. Alignment. Steer toward your 7 closest neighbors. Remember, the swarm is not led. There's no central decision maker. This practice of steering in accordance with the movement of your closest neighbors is what keeps the flock aligned. Now, as the minister of this congregation, it may appear that I'm in control and that I am the leader of the congregation, that I know where I'm going. But in reality, I am just like all of you. I am frail, with broken wings at times, cold and alone, living on naked trees, confused, not necessarily knowing which way to turn. I do not know where we are going, but I trust the flighted dance of our murmuration. Together, we are better. Together, I can more easily shed my fears and unfurl my wings. The only thing I know to do is to lead with presence, a vulnerable, unknowing, surrendering to the moment presence. Emergence is really leaderless, like the blackbirds. It's not classical music where a composer dictates exactly how to play a piece and a conductor makes sure that it happens like it should. We're more like a collective music-making project where the group is deciding the music to play. We are picking the songs to play in the keys that are best for us, arranging things ourselves. Murmurations follow no leader and have no plan, yet together they become a greater whole and serve a greater practical purpose. Perhaps the pro-Palestinian student protests right now on college campuses across the country are like murmurations. They call for a ceasefire and divestment from the Israeli army. I have no doubt that this movement comes from a shared compassion of seeing near famine break out in Gaza and something like 14,000 children dying. This movement takes with it a great potential. Students are linking together imperialism, colonization with anti-racism and indigenous people's rights. Now, I don't agree with the violence by a small minority of the protesters, nor by the violence of the police. I'm frightened as to what kind of effect this will have on the upcoming presidential election, but their hearts seem to be in the right place, centered on the suffering in Gaza. I know this, if I was 20 years old, I would probably be encamped on some university green right now. I also know what happens to a leaderless protest movement that spreads itself too broadly and does not make specific and clear demands. As the semester ends and some graduate, I hope these mostly peaceful protests move on and murmurate around our nation and the world. For Beaumont, emergence is a naturally occurring pattern, a pattern of change that happens over time when a group interacts in conditions of upheaval, disturbance, and dissonance. Eventually, novel and coherent structures arise in response to changes in the environment. A moment arises and disorder gives way to a new order. I wonder what this murmuration will lead to. Out of the disorder, hopefully, a new order where peace reigns supreme. There is a predictable cycle here. Something used to work, but now no longer does. Things feel unsettling, anxious, yet we do not have to resist the change and try to take control. We can accept, let go, and see things as an opportunity to murmurate. The principles of murmuration are sort of a paradox. You are not to crowd your neighbor in flight, but you can't distance yourself too much either. Stay close, but don't collide. Keep track of your 7 closest feathery friends. So don't crowd your neighbor before you start moving in your pews away from each other. Hear me out a little bit. We need space and healthy boundaries to be our true selves. Give each other space to be who you are. And don't bump into each other and possibly injure ourselves in the process. Yet we can, or we cannot, leave too much space either. We are not solitary raptors. We are social beings who enjoy taking flight together. We can't forget about our relationships and connections, that which grounds us. When we are looking for a direction in life, we should move toward our flying companions. Now, moving closer to each other might be a no-duh moment, or it might be an act of faith. It's good to have 7 or so close companions on the journey. And here's a shameless plug for what we've been calling small group ministry in this congregation. I'm thinking here of the listening circles we have, the men's group, the sacred text and coffee, groups of 7 or so people that get together to get to know each other on a deeper level and explore life's journey together. I don't know of a better way to build a beloved community, or a better way to build up your own soul, for that matter. As much as we need our own space to sit and rest, we need spaces to rest and roost together. We can lean into what is emerging inside our very own souls, this congregation, the communities we live in. The emergent murmuration is an illustration also of shared ministry. When we transcend hierarchies and interconnected collaboration happens where everyone contributes to the common good. This could be as simple as restructuring the Faith in Action group. We don't have a chair for that group. We literally take turns chairing those meetings. Now, we don't have this all figured out yet, and it can feel a little bit uncomfortable at times, but we are moving forward together in a creative murmuration. Another example, before the pandemic, we had a welcoming committee which had clearly established processes. Well, the chaos of the pandemic sort of blew that all up. And I wanted to fix things and restructure things, but I let things emerge into a membership and outreach committee, which is more concerned with having events and workshops and getting the word out of who we are. Through the beauty of the shared emergent murmuration, we embrace innovation and discover a new way forward. We are always waiting for this moment to arise, to be free, to warm our cold wings. We can fly and create together. Let us go forth in the awe-inspiring murmuration among us. So may it be, and amen.